Good morning, everybody. Hi, everyone. This is Valerie Haas. I am the Organizational Learning and Development Lead for Goodwill Columbus. And I want to thank you for joining us once again today to discuss conflict resolution. Today, we're talking about conflict resolution because conflict is something normal. It happens, it transpires in our life all the time. Even when people aren't around, there's conflict. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But conflict is real. And if we don't understand the positive ways in which we should go about resolving conflict, it can affect our relationships and it can affect our professional life in particular. So we want to talk about ways to positively resolve conflict. And yeah, that's what we're going to talk about. So now, over the last few days, we've had our wonderful speakers come in and talk to you a little bit about communication styles and the basics of communication. Look, communication, we all have our own way of communicating. We have our own style that we are drawn to, that we gravitate to more often than others. We all have our own way of doing it. And just because I may have a different way of communicating than you, and you have a different way of communicating than myself, it doesn't mean that one is better or worse than the other. It just simply means that we do it differently. And so once we recognize that sometimes the very thing that gets in the way of our communication is the fact that we don't recognize that we do it differently and that we don't respect the different styles of communication, that's when conflict gets out of hand. Okay, so we're going to talk about just some things to consider when faced with conflict, most specifically in the workplace. Now, with that said, we do have a moderator in the chat, the wonderful Victor Johnson, who is a career facilitator with Goodwill Columbus. He is going to be in the chat to answer your questions because I won't be able to see all of the comments in the chat. So I'm just going to ask that you be patient with myself, but Victor is there. He can handle any question you have. Trust me. I have questions. I go to Victor. You can go to Victor too. All right. Okay. So let's get started with our presentation, talking about conflict resolution. All right. Hold on. Gotta get my screen together here. I want to share my screen one more time. Get it so we can all see it clearly. That's right. All right. So hopefully we are set and everybody can see things. I'm just double checking, guys. Forgive me. I just want to make sure that you guys can see it. All right. Yes, you can. Yay. Had some technical difficulties earlier, guys, so forgive me. All right. So let's talk about conflict resolution. You know, usually when I'm teaching this class in person, I go around the room, I ask people, please share with me a word that comes to mind when you talk about conflict. And I hear things like argument, fighting, struggle, frustration. I hear all of these words that typically sound pretty negative. But the truth is, conflict isn't all negative. Conflict can also be positive. Actually, let me unshare my screen here for just a second because I want to see you guys. I want you guys to be able to see me too. Maybe I should do this a little differently here. Guys, bear with me. We're gonna do this together. All right, bear with me here. Yeah. I think that should do it. How about that? All right. So when we talk about these different words that come to mind, I want you to know that I don't want you to get caught up in the fact that conflict tends to have a negative bearing on us. I don't want it to be that. In order to move forward, we have to have some form of conflict. If you have your way of doing things and I have my way of doing things, it doesn't mean that your way is wrong and my way is right, or my way is wrong and your way is right. We both could be right. We both could be wrong. We'll never know unless we master our ability to communicate effectively so that we can openly discuss our views independently and see how we can come together to resolve these matters collectively. And so you may find that by just discussing matters when they present themselves in a positive, constructive manner, we may find that bringing your way and my way together, we have a better way that comes out of it. So conflict isn't just about fighting. Conflict can just merely be having two different points of view. So to come into collision or disagreement, to be contradictory at variance or in opposition, to clash or to fight or contend, to do battle, those are the verbs associated with conflict. And again, those words we talked about before, like fighting and struggle and battle and all of those things and strife. Yeah, those things are the words that come to the forefront of our mind because we've been conditioned to see conflict as a negative. I want you to see conflict as an opportunity. I want you to see conflict as a way of finding a win-win for both parties, not just a win-lose or a lose-win, but a win-win. We'll talk more about that in a bit. Now, there are two major causes for conflict. The first one typically is poor communication. A lot of times you are presented with information or the story that you have in your mind may lack complete information. You may not have all of the details, and that you have to keep at the forefront of your mind. You may not know the whole story. And so that could be getting in the way as to why you feel the way you feel or why you're upset about something. So lack of complete information can be the problem. Misinformation, in other words, wrong information, or no information at all. All three of these things can create poor communication, all in all. Now, what can make things even worse? What can heighten the conflict in and of itself are our emotions. Have our emotions gotten in the way of us being able to even resolve this appropriately? Are you too angry? Are you too sad and emotional? Are you overly excited about something? Good or bad emotions, or what appears to be a display of good or bad feelings, can get in the way of us fully hearing the situation at hand and having a clear understanding as to what we're dealing with here. So you'll want to make sure that you don't allow your emotions to drive your decisions, and you don't allow your emotions to block clear thinking. All in all, look, we're all human, and unless we take a step back and ask ourselves these questions, we can easily get caught up in high emotions over incomplete or a lack of information. Okay, these two combined, they can be lethal in a conflict. Now, when we're talking about conflict in the workplace, there are two types of workplace conflict. That workplace conflict can be an external, with an external person, external typically meaning a customer, a client, potential partners that we hope to collaborate within the community, other organizations, what have you. So there's always the external person. Then there is internal conflict, and that internal conflict might be our coworkers, our supervisors. Sometimes our coworkers and our supervisors are also our customers. That's a whole nother class what we'll talk about in our customer service. But we can also have internal conflict right here, I can have internal conflict and nobody else is involved at all but me. In fact, I had some internal conflict this morning. I had conflict as to whether or not I was going to eat breakfast or not eat breakfast, if I was going to wear pink or if I was going to wear blue. Look, conflict is real and we all are faced with it at some point. How you go about recognizing what the situation is can help you keep your emotions intact and help you to think and function in a clear mind and with a clear voice, okay? So I want you to think about times in the past when you've been faced with conflict in the workplace. Ask yourself, what was really going on there? Was that an internal or an external conflict that I was faced with? Was it an internal conflict that only involved myself? Look, when we work with other people, you don't know what someone else is faced with at home. You may not know as much about their personal life as you think that you know. And so there could be times when someone is faced and boggled down with pressures from family members, finances, health concerns. There could be all sorts of matters that they are dealing with. And they bring that with them to the workplace. And sometimes it shows up in how they communicate with us. Sometimes we're the guilty party and you come into work and you have all of those things happening in the back of your mind. And it starts to show up in how we talk to others, how we respond to things that aren't going quite our way. We have to be willing to sit back, ask ourselves, do I know the complete story here? Is this an internal or an external conflict? Does this internal conflict, if it is that, does it involve anyone else aside from myself? And then ask yourself, is it possible that what you are judging to be an issue with your coworker or even with that customer, is that because maybe they've had something that they were facing that you aren't aware of? So be mindful, there are a lot of things can come into play when we're talking about conflict. Again, conflict resolution and being able to do this effectively, this is going to be important in the workplace and in all aspects of our lives. When you are dealing with conflict, the objective is to walk away feeling that there was a win-win there for both parties involved. A win-win, not just a win-lose where you're the winner and someone on the opposite end of you has lost. Or when you're the loser and they're the winner. It should be a win-win. God forbid, there are times when we both come to the table and we're fighting out our points of view and we still walk away both losers. That is not effective conflict resolution. You want to come and find a place where you can find a win-win. And when you can't, just agree to disagree, but do that respectfully. And when we do that, because there may be times, that should be the last result, but there may be times when you have to walk away from a conflict and decide, okay, we have to agree to disagree, at least in this moment. You still want to find a place for respect for the person that you're working with so that when you come back to the table again, you are able to resolve conflicts when you can. Now, here are 3 things to keep in mind when resolving conflict. In order to build professional communication skills to resolve conflict, you'll want to be engaged in listening through focused observation. That's basically an opportunity for us to learn and hear from others without even them speaking a word. You can just put eyes on someone and listen to their heart and listen to what's going on in their head just by paying attention to what they're doing, how they're responding, looking at the nonverbals, listening to the tone in which they are even speaking to you. Paying attention to those key things may let you know whether or not this is about you, this is about the matter at hand. Maybe there's more to it than what we know. but you'll want to pay attention. Look, nonverbals are key. You know, if you're in a restaurant and you see someone doing this, immediately you know someone is choking. They didn't have to say it. In fact, a lot of times if someone's choking, they can't talk. So having this clear symbol as choking lets us know there's something wrong. I need to act based upon what I see. Every nonverbal won't be quite that clear. But if you are engaged in listening through focused observation, you're going to pick up on some cues that let you know that maybe something's going on with the person. Maybe you want to ask them how their day is. Ask them if they need assistance with something, or just offer a positive word. Through focused observation, you'll be able to even detect what direction you should go in resolving this conflict. Also, you'll want to ask open-ended questions. You know, my friends say to me all the time, you know, that when I tell stories, I tell too many details. Okay, there are going to be people like me that don't have problems giving you the details. When you have people like me who will tell you too many details, too much information, you'll want to ask them closed-ended questions that only require a one-word answer. But there are going to be people who aren't so freely with their communication. They need a little help in pulling the information out that you need. So you'll want to ask them open-ended questions that will require a more thorough answer than yes or no or one-word answers. By asking those open-ended questions, you're going to get more details and you're going to get a better understanding from where they come from as to, you know, what it is they want to get across. And then last but not least are using affirmations and I statements. Affirmations are those positive words of encouragement that you offer your coworkers, your friends, your family. I statements can also help you with your coworkers, your friends, and your family. When you are in the midst of a conflict, you'll want to make sure that when you're sharing your thoughts, when you're sharing your concerns, that you are not playing the blame game. You'll want to make sure that people don't feel attacked by what it is that you're hoping to share with them. By using I statements, you take the focus off of the other person and you place the focus on yourself to ensure that you resolve the matter as easily and as constructively and responsibly as possible so that people don't feel attacked. When I start out the sentence with I feel this way, instead of you always do this, you're pointing the blame versus holding some accountability and making sure that you're just sharing how you feel as opposed to attacking the other person. You want to keep open communication. Again, engaged listening, focused observation, and asking open-ended questions includes giving and receiving. And feedback is always going to be necessary for our growth. And there are going to be times when feedback is necessary and you being able to receive it and understand that it's an opportunity for growth. That's what's going to be key for your growth and development. You coming to that realization and being open to hearing the feedback. Your supervisors are in place to provide your feedback. Our customers are in place to provide us with feedback. And without that feedback, we don't have the tools necessary to understand where we're falling short, because guess what? We don't always see everything. We have a blind side to ourselves. So you have to be open to the feedback of others. Feedback allows us to keep the lines of communication open, and it's a useful tool in establishing oneself and in advancing in a career. So in order to grow and develop, to acquire new skills, develop old skills, feedback is going to be key to ensure that you are progressing at the rate that you should and to make sure that you can get to where it is that you hope to go. The I statement, again, allows you to take a respectful approach to conflict, and it helps you own your feelings and experiences, and it helps you avoid blaming or shaming. So it leads to more cooperative communication. So here are some examples, again, of an I statement. So here's some blaming and shaming. Let's start there. Bob, you are so lazy. You know, you're supposed to do the dishes at the end of your shift, and you said you would. You're the reason why this place is always a mess. So if you were to say that to Bob, Bob might say, don't call me lazy. I do a lot of work around here. Besides, you're not my boss. Already that has turned into making a bad situation even worse. Okay, we don't want to do that. All right, you don't want to call Bob lazy. You don't want to do that and then in turn think that Bob is going to change his way of doing things because you said it. No, try this. You know, Bob, I get frustrated when I get to work and the dishes haven't been done. It puts me behind in my work because I have to take time to do them. Bob might then say, okay, I get it. I know what it's like to start my shift and I feel like I'm already behind. I'll make sure I get the dishes clean. You never know. Just by switching around our tone, our words, and our approach, we may get something out of it that we really intended to get out of it. Instead of making someone feel small, feel attacked, and then by doing that, you have now made maybe a contentious relationship with a coworker even worse. By sharing and explaining your side in a responsible way, they can see it from your point of view and decide to make a change so that your relationship is better and more importantly, you're able to work more effectively in the workplace together. So that's what I really wanted to share with you this morning about conflict. Conflict's gonna come. It's going to happen. It's a way of life. And I think you should welcome it. But what I want you to welcome more to that process is not just welcoming the conflict, but being open to doing it effectively and to ensuring that we both walk away from every conflict with a win-win, that we've learned something more, that we've learned to be better, to do better. And hopefully that allows us to work better together. All right. So that's what I have for you right now. At 2 o'clock, we are going to come back here on Facebook and on YouTube. Please check out our Facebook page. All of our YouTube watchers, we love you. Thank you for joining us. Be sure to join our Facebook page. It's the Goodwill Columbus Workforce Development Facebook page, where we share all of the different credentialing opportunities we have, all of the different training opportunities, and ways to get jobs and job placement through our services. So you can come out here and learn even more of what we've shared today. Again, I'll be back at 2 o'clock. We'll be talking more about customer service there and dealing with difficult customers. All right. And sometimes those customers work in the workplace. And if those customers are our coworkers and we have conflict and we're not communicating properly, that's going to cause even worse conflict. Oh my God, you're going to have to put all of these skills and techniques that I just shared into practice. All right. So let's talk about how to deal with difficult customers. I'll see you at 2 o'clock. Thank you, Victor. Leave messages in the comments if you have any questions. And have a great day. Until then, talk to you guys later. Let me stop sharing my screen. Yeah. All right. That's it, guys. Have a good one. Talk to you later. Bye.